Good afternoon, California. My name is Britt Creemeyer. I'm originally from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a We the People alum. I'm currently a practicing attorney in Boise, Idaho.
And I am Les Volpe. I'm an attorney in Denver. I've been working with this program for over 20 years. Thank you for your participation.
I am Gus Chin. I'm a municipal judge for the cities of Holiday and Cottonwood Heights in the state of Utah.
Will you please introduce yourselves?
Good afternoon. We are Foothill High School's Unit 5, representing the state of California. My name is Arushi Abachat.
My name is Zoe Reed.
My name is Megan Chung.
And my name is Sydney Fluker. We'd like to thank the judges and the timekeeper for being with us today, as well as introduce our coaches, Mr. Duddamore and Mr. McBride.
Wonderful. We're so glad to be here with you. So because we're kind of in this interesting platform, I hope you won't be offended, but we might cut you off mid-question, just so all of us judges can have an opportunity to ask you questions on what we anticipate is going to be a great prepared statement. So we're going to dive right in, and we are here today, as you all know, for Unit 5, question number 2. Richard Posner wrote that the American public worries more about the invasions of privacy than about summary proceedings against suspected terrorists, curtailments of the freedom of speech of the law-abiding, or the right of the media to publish government secrets. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Why or why not? To what extent, if any, is privacy in jeopardy today? What protection, if any, do people have from privacy violations by governments or businesses? You may begin.
In Richard Posner's Not a Suicide Pact, he argues that the benefit of thwarting terrorist plans should outweigh the cost of invading the privacy of innocent people. However, we disagree with Posner, and due to the government's increased surveillance power, believe that the American public is justified in worrying about their privacy for 2 main reasons.
First, mass surveillance programs intended to catch terrorists allow the government to legally invade the privacy of thousands of Americans. Under Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978, the government routinely collects online communications of more than 125,000 targets each year, who are merely linked to foreign affairs through their travel or research. Thus, these targets are often innocent people rather than terrorists. These overly broad programs threaten people's Fourth Amendment right against warrantless searches.
Second, we believe that big tech companies such as Google should be considered public utilities since they are so prevalent in our society. This would grant users a reasonable expectation of privacy, which would protect them against surveillance programs such as PRISM, which allow the government to collect individuals' personal data from big tech companies warrantlessly, causing an unreasonable breach of privacy.
As technology advances, our privacy is greatly jeopardized in several ways. First, the lack of congressional legislation from the federal government regarding privacy poses a great concern, since according to the third-party doctrine, as established in Smith v. Maryland, 1979, companies are free to give information they have about individuals to the government. We view this as a violation of privacy and agree with Justice Sotomayor's concurrence in U.S. v. Jones, 2012. In which she asserts the third-party doctrine is far too invasive to be applicable in today's digital world.
Privacy is also jeopardized in the business sphere. Consumers expect convenience, productivity, and innovation from new technology, resulting in companies creating systems like Ring doorbells or Alexa, products that are listening when someone says, "Okay, Google," in order to thrive in the marketplace. The societal desire for more advanced technology has inherently resulted in a reduction of privacy.
Another government threat against privacy comes with the new COVID-19 pandemic. According to the Wall Street Journal, the government has collected geolocations from people's cell phones to analyze potential hotspots of the virus. While this data attacks general location over personal information, the gravity of this situation raises concerns that the government may proceed in this direction, or that they may mandate that individuals give up their location, posing a potential erosion to people's privacy rights.
Protections against violations of privacy by the government are deeply rooted in our Bill of Rights. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches without a warrant, protecting personal belongings and physical privacy within the home. These protections were expanded in Griswold v. Connecticut, 1965, when the Supreme Court found the right to privacy to be a penumbral right, a right inherent in our Bill of Rights, but not explicitly stated. This expanded the meaning of privacy to include protections for one's personal behaviors, such as the use of contraceptives.
State governments are beginning to place critical restrictions on businesses. One example of this is the California Consumer Privacy Act of 2020, which increases transparency with third-party usage of data. The key part of this act is that it allows a user to go to a company and acquire all data that has been collected about them, and to have the company stop selling the data if they desire. We agree with this act and believe it should extend to the federal level to universally protect America's consumers from violations. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have some follow-up questions. So you mentioned that consumers have expectations that we want it all. We want all the bells and whistles. We want Ring, we want Alexa. So that comes with a cost. So aren't we giving our consent by having these products? And if we are giving our consent, what kind of protection do we get if we give our consent?
So in a sense, we are giving our consent by getting these products. However, I think it is important to note that by people purchasing an Alexa or a Ring doorbell, they are not initially thinking that they're going to be listened to all the time and that their information is going to be sold. And this is where acts such as the CCPA become very important, because they give users the option to say, I do not want my data to be sold and I would like it to be kept private.
Additionally, many users are not aware of the implications of the third-party doctrine, which allows government to warrantlessly obtain data from a company without even informing the individual whose data is being collected. And we believe that this is an infringement on privacy rights that most consumers do not anticipate.
Les, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. If consumers are unaware of the extent of the gathering of the information, or they're simply apathetic about the fact that that information is being gathered, how do we generate laws that will end up protecting them if they don't demonstrate their own personal interest in protecting themselves?
So we can see that through a study by the Center for Digital Future, 77% of millennials believe that they should have their privacy protected. However, they don't understand how to do this. And we can see that new legislation, such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, has allowed for more awareness of how their privacy is being used. And we can see that this act is beginning to spread to other states, such as Maine, that has adopted a similar act. So we can see that in this way, you can start a general trend to more privacy across all 50 states.
Furthermore, the more awareness of privacy rights that people have, the more likely they are willing to fight for their privacy. If somebody is not aware that their privacy is at risk of being taken, they are likely not going to take charge and pushing for acts such as the California Consumer Privacy Act that will protect them. However, the more awareness that we bring, the more likely they are to encourage their legislators to pass and fight for these type of acts.
Sorry.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
You seem to advocate a sort of strict privacy protection. However, in light of what you have said in your opening presentation and some of your comments thus far, if we have concerns about security, the common good, the national welfare, should we not be willing to forego or sacrifice some of those privacy rights which we safeguard right now?
I believe that there are certain situations where these privacy rights can be pushed back a little bit. In Kentucky v. King 2011, the court created a standard for exceptions to Fourth Amendment privacy rights under exigent circumstances. So I do believe under exigent circumstances, for example, like the pandemic the globe is experiencing right now, certain Fourth Amendment protections in a well-regulated fashion can be lifted.
However, I think it is important to note that programs such as PRISM that were designed to create protections for Americans against terrorist plots and organizations have been proven to not work. In 2013, there was a Senate Judiciary Committee which investigated the NSA. And upon pressure to the NSA director, he admitted that these mass surveillance programs have only foiled 1 or 2 direct terrorist plots. So I think it's important to see that in general, these programs that are already in place are ineffective and therefore not worth the breach of our privacy.
So what's more dangerous? The government having your private data or businesses having your private data?
I personally believe that government having a mass collection of users' data across the United States is more dangerous, because we can see through a 2020 March report by the that the NSA had been collecting data from years ago, and that the FBI has been using this data warrantlessly and have not been using it in the correct manner. And thus, I believe that because of these government programs that users don't know about, they are at risk of having their privacy violated without knowing.
I disagree with my unit mate. I believe we are more at risk from businesses because in some government cases, there are legitimate reasons for collecting your data. However, businesses more intend to sell it to other companies to further their advertisements and different marketing ideas such as this. Therefore, I believe our data is more at risk from businesses rather than from the government itself.
I agree with Sydney. Most individuals interact with businesses on a day-to-day basis and therefore are more susceptible to breaches of privacy. However, most Americans do not interact with government in a similar way on a day-to-day basis, and as a result would not be susceptible to breaches of privacy the same way they would as they interact with businesses.
You guys timed that perfectly. Did we practice our 6 minute response? Let's give ourselves a round of applause. I want to thank all of you for participating in this platform. It means so much to all of us, and I know I'm not going to take the thunder away from my fellow judges, that you opted in. You didn't have to participate, and we get that. And it means so much to us because, as I'm sure you all are dealing with the quarantine burnout, we are in a similar position as all of you. And it has been so inspiring and uplifting to hear your prepared statements, to hear your remarks to our questions that are difficult, that are prodding and poking and trying to see exactly all of the elements that you've covered and researched so diligently. So thank you. Thank you for staying informed and being diligent in your studies when this has been anything but orthodox. I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that you go on to in your lives, whatever field it is. I know that you will be successful because you are diligent and you are resourceful. And this is the time that you've really shined, and I appreciate it. So I will turn the time over to my fellow judges.
I too wish to express my gratitude to you for participating in this program, even under these difficult circumstances, using modern technology to continue the competition when it was so difficult to try and gather either as your individual school classrooms or as your individual teams and so forth and so on. But I really appreciate your dedication to this program, We the People, when it is so important to expanding the knowledge of our Constitution and of our social issues in an era when it could not be more important. This is going to be a problem, this invasion of privacy, this heightened technology is going to be a problem for your generation. You must take this knowledge and educate your fellow citizens so that they will join with you in activism and in terms of trying to pressure our government to take steps to protect our privacy, both nationally and internationally. Thank you for your efforts. Please take this knowledge forward, educate your fellow citizens, and do what you can to try and solve the problem we have been talking about today.
I join my fellow judges in thanking you for giving us an opportunity to participate in this forum. Commend you immensely for your participation as well and your commitment and resiliency. I appreciate the responses you've provided. You've also given some wonderful suggestions, which is now left to you to follow through with civic responsibility to determine if Google does become a public utility or whether or not we get congressional legislation in place that guarantees good protection of privacy. So it's all in your hands, and we are in good hands by virtue of what I've seen today. Thank you. Good luck to you all. And thanks to your coaches and teachers as well.